Hello, my friends. John Wilson here. And hey, it's that time of year again. It's time to start assessing your equipment needs for next year and make some purchases on behalf of Uncle Sam. Well, I'm here to tell you that my friends here at IVOCLAR have really sharpened their pencils and are offering some of the best deals of the year on mills and furnaces. As an owner of several of these great pieces of technology, I can tell you firsthand that you won't be disappointed. We're talking about robust and dependable machines that make you more efficient. We certainly count on them daily here at Sunrise. So do yourself a favor, make that call today. You'll be glad you did.
And of course, we appreciate IVOCLAR for their continued support. Welcome to Voices from the Bench, a dental laboratory podcast. Send us an email at info@voicesfromthebench.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Greetings and welcome to episode 344 of Voices from the Bench. My name is Elvis.
And my name is still Barbara.
Still Barbara, how the hell are you?
Doing all right.
Yeah.
Doing all right. What is that, Matthew McConaughey? All right, all right, all right. That's me.
Dang, how's work at the lab? You guys busy right now?
Yeah, we finally got caught up. Well, we're still a little behind, but we finally got caught up
Sure.
from the hurricane. And busy, no, but I can smell it. It's coming. It's
Yeah.
November. It's the time of year where you go absolutely ridiculously crazy busy, and it's the holidays. So,
Yep, it all lines up.
yep.
End of the year insurance, here you comes.
Mhm.
Yeah. I waited all year to do something. Now it's time to get it done.
Really fast.
Really fast. I need it by
Yeah.
tomorrow.
How are you?
I'm good. Just still busy. It's fall here in Indiana, so leaves are changing. My nemesis, they're all falling to the ground, so I have to start that long project of cleaning up all the leaves. But
Nice.
yeah, wake up and it's 40, and by the end of the afternoon, it's 78, so it's that weird time of the year.
So you can go for a cold run and then warm up.
Yep. I leave the house in a jacket and come home in a t-shirt, so
Yes,
it's all
sir.
good.
I like it.
You know, lately I've been feeling kind of missing out on seeing all my dental friends, so I thought we would take a minute to talk about all the great shows lining up
Let's go.
for 2025.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, first up, we have the Great Vision 21. We're not actually recording at that show, but we just kind of go to, see everybody and to see the great meeting. Happens every year, Las Vegas.
It's the January 16th through the 18th. You're on the foundation board and I'm on the NBC board. So we do a little bit of board work, but mostly it's to network and see all the amazing people that we love and have fun.
And I do think that this is the year Joe becomes president. Is that
Yes,
correct?
sir. Hi, Joe.
Joe, that's going to be
Congrats.
great. We got to welcome him to his great new role.
Yeah.
And then right after that, about a month later, we start the great Chicago meetings where we get to go to
on.
Cal Lab, which is February 21st to the
Yep.
21st. What?
21, 22, I believe.
Yeah. So you're on the board with that. Last year, they did a really, really nice evening event. Are they going to do that again?
Heck yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Everybody's invited to that, even non-Cal Lab people, right?
Yeah, that was a blast last year. I think it's really important to work hard, but then you want to have some fun. And so, yeah, that was spectacular, and we're definitely doing it again.
Yeah, so if you go to Chicago, which obviously is Lab Day Chicago, which, again, we're going to be in the IVOCLAR Ballroom. Thank you, IVOCLAR.
Thank you, IVOCLAR.
Love that spot. That's February 20th to the 22nd. So if you're going to be in Chicago, go look at Cal Lab as a great side meeting. Is that what we should call it? An additional
I think
meeting?
it's an additional meeting. It's definitely a business meeting and a
Sure.
networking meeting for sure.
Yeah, but at least go to the evening event. It was a blast last year. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And
I know you got to say this. Let's do this.
God, this is amazing. Thank you to EXOCAD for taking Barb and I to the IDS show in Cologne, Germany.
March 25th to 29th. And like you and I both say, thank you, EXOCAD. That has been a dream of mine and yours, and then us together with the podcast for 5 years. So thank you. Thank you.
It's amazing. It's going to be 4 days of recording. It's going to be awesome.
And we're going to be on point.
I hope. It's going to be great. So if you speak English, stop by and see us. No,
yes, please.
So a lot of people assume that Barb and I know a lot of people in the industry because we do this podcast.
Which we do, actually.
We do, but I can't tell you how many times someone says to me, I can't believe you don't know so-and-so. I figured you had them on the podcast already. Because we've had so many episodes, people assume that we've talked to them.
Never assume.
Never assume. But one of the great things about our industry is that we're definitely not running out of amazing people to talk to.
I know. We're going on, 6 years?
6 years, 344 episodes.
Yeah, well, good for us. And good for the industry.
And we're still booked. I mean, we're not slowing
down.
And it really wasn't long ago that, of course, I was strolling on the social medias when I saw a post on LinkedIn from someone with the title of the CEO of Glidewell Dental Lab. And I thought to myself, isn't that Jim Glidewell?
Not.
Yes, as we soon find out. Yeah, so, well, because of this very podcast, we were able to reach out and find out who Stephenie Goddard is.
Amazing. She's amazing. She
is amazing. And what a delightful conversation we all had getting to know the person that's running the biggest lab in the U.S. Is it the world or just the U.S.?
It's probably the world, but definitely U.S.
Definitely. Stephenie talks all about her journey from finance to finding Glidewell 18 years ago to run their HR department. The story of how she is asked to become CEO is only justified by letting her tell it to you.
Yes.
But she gets into how she helped Glidewell through the regulatory work, getting Bruxzir through the FDA, creating leadership training to make managers better that create better teams, and how to take a 1,100 employee lab to 5,000 employees and keep that sense of family and warmth.
I love that too.
It's such a good conversation. So
Yes.
Join us as we chat with Stephenie Goddard. Voices from the Bench. The interview. We are so excited today to welcome the CEO of Glidewell. Do people even call you the new CEO anymore, or how long have you been CEO? I wanted to say new, but I wasn't sure.
I'm still I still feel new. If that
Okay.
It'll be 3 years in January, if you can
Wow.
believe it.
Wow.
So it's not
I know,
new.
but
It's new, but not new.
It's you know what? It's
New-ish
new-ish.
compared to the last CEO.
Yeah, compared to Mr. Glidewell,
Yeah.
who was a CEO for 52 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stephenie Goddard? Goddard? How do you say your last name?
You know, any of the above but Goddard.
Goddard. Stephenie Goddard. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited. It's such a beautiful introduction. Now I'm excited. Wow, I want to meet this person.
I never know where to start, so I just kind of jump into it. But this podcast is all about how you get where you are today. So let's find out how Stephenie becomes the CEO of Glidewell. I assume there's either two things happened. You started in the model room, or you just walked in the door one time and they said, that's our new CEO. There's probably no other options, right?
Wow. Okay, so those are two of the furthest things from possibility.
That's for sure. That's Elvis's version. Now we get to hear yours, thank God.
I can tell you I've been in a model room and I know where they are. I can tell you we don't have many of them left anymore, unfortunately.
I would imagine. Yeah. So seriously, okay, joking aside, Stephenie, where do you come from? How do you end up where you are?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a little bit crazy, probably. So here's the crazy thing. People think, oh, did you just come to Glidewell? Have you only been here for a few years? I just celebrated my 18th work anniversary
Excellent.
here.
Wow.
Yeah.
hmm
Awesome.
Yeah, in September.
Well, we
So
never heard of you until 3 years ago, so nothing personal.
so it's okay. I don't take it personally. I try to stay under the radar. So yeah, I started here 18 years ago. Some people know my story. Zero background in dental. I came from finance and consulting. So I was at PricewaterhouseCoopers and I was at the World Bank. So zero dental background at all.
Yeah.
And I was living in DC, and I grew up in California, and I was looking to move back to California. So I was actively searching for a new role for myself to come back
Sure.
to the West Coast. And I was in Newport Beach and Irvine interviewing with some financial institutions out here.
Is that a fancy word for banks?
Yes.
Okay.
Like investment houses.
Yeah.
Rob Grice, who was the COO at the time, found my resume on monster.com
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
and called me, and we had this great call, and he was looking for a new head of HR, and we talked for an hour or something, and really great call. And I said, I know some friends in California. I still have some connections. I'm happy to connect you with some people who might be the right candidate for you. And he says, oh no, I found the right person. And I thought, well, why did I just spend an hour with you on the phone?
And it was you, right?
And yeah, and he said, so when can we meet? And I was like,
Wow.
oh, me. Like,
So you had no HR experience?
not like, so I did HR consulting. So I did a ton of like leadership development consulting and business process consulting and human capital kinds of consulting, but I'd never run an HR department. And
Yeah.
so that's why I never sort of considered it, because I wasn't ever somebody who had managed benefits. I had never managed workers' comp programs. I was a great human capital consultant, so I had a great sense of like understanding like, okay, where does the business want to go? And then how does HR help you meet those goals?
Yeah.
But when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to like the nitty-gritty of running an HR department, I had never done that. So I had never even really considered that. And so I said, well, I'm going to be out there meeting with these two companies. I'm happy to stay an extra day. And I did. And I ended up coming to Glidewell and running the HR department. And so at the time, they had 1,100 employees, and
Wow.
Rob and Jim knew that they wanted to do a pivot and really grow our lab business, but also get into this whole sort of medical device manufacturing area,
Mm-hmm.
which required sort of a different mindset and FDA compliance and regulatory and just a very different sort of look and feel of where they wanted the organization to go to. So they were looking for somebody who didn't have a strong HR background, but had a strong business background and growth, sort of change management and growth mindset. So that's kind of why I ended up being the perfect candidate for them.
But
Wow.
you didn't have a medical background either.
No, no, I didn't have
Wow.
no.
Okay.
No, and so my first year was just I do know where the plaster room is. I spent time in the plaster room. I do know like, if you ask me, I know the basics of making a crown. I'm a
Sure.
horrible artist, so back in the day I could never have made a crown that looked nice back then when it was all hand stacked, but today I
Yeah.
Yeah.
can make a crown on CAD CAM.
Nice.
Yeah. Don't worry, I can't either. It's okay.
But yeah, so yeah, I ran our dental tech education program. I did all of the hiring. I managed all of the change management. I implemented leadership development programs and sort of like professionalism into the organization, I guess you would say, of like really trying to focus on not dental technology necessarily, but really leadership development. Because if you want to grow a business, your leaders have to know how to help you get there.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's really what I was focused on. And then I took over regulatory affairs, and then I, started getting into business development and then customer experience. And so over 18 years, I've had a lot of different roles until I became CEO.
So what was it like? So you didn't have HR background, but you sounded like you just jumped right in. I mean, did it fit immediately you just kind of knew that this was a really great company and you wanted to stay there and build it?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because I will say this, it was definite culture shock to me
Yeah.
because I'd come from the World Bank and, I was working in DC and I covered the Middle East and North Africa region and I was working with chief economists and, you know, graduates from Harvard and INSEAD and all over the world. And then I came to Glidewell and it was definitely culture shock to me.
Yeah.
I would imagine the HR difference between bankers and dental technicians is a little
Yeah.
different.
Very.
Just a tad, just a tad. And back then, people may have dealt with their issue, like their HR issues, very different, like maybe yelling at their employees on the
Yep.
floor, or like
Oh yeah.
throwing things, and it's
We did
like,
that a long time ago. Yep, I remember those days.
yeah. So, what I like to say is, when you know better, you do better. And so, we just kind of gave people tools that they never had. And absent tools, people don't know. And you learn from your leadership, and their leadership had been in this industry, for 20 or 30 years before them, and they learned under their leaders. And so, we really focus on trying to create sort of a new culture and new sense of like what it means to be a great leader. But yeah, it was definite culture shock. But I will say this about Glidewell. The reason I chose this role over the other ones that I was looking at was the people were
Yep.
so kind and so lovely. And it was 1,100 employees, and it felt like a family. Like people truly loved each other and knew each other. And at the time, the average tenure was like 18 years.
Yep.
So people are here for a long time, and many of them probably, were family members across the organization. They told their friends and families about jobs here. And so it had this sense of warmth that felt good to be in that other companies struggle to bring that, right? And so that's what I loved about it when I discovered Glidewell. But, truthfully, I thought, okay, what did I get myself into? I'll stick this out for a year or two and then I'm punching out. Like, I don't know if I made a mistake.
Yeah.
It's amazing they had a sense of family at 1,100 employees. I mean,
Hmm.
Don't you think that
Hmm.
comes from the top down, though? I mean, Elvis
Yeah.
and I, we know Jim, we know Glidewell, and everybody always says how amazing of a leader he is. And I think he just brings that. People
Hmm.
feel that.
Yeah, he is. I mean, yeah, you've both met him several times, and
mm-hmm.
he's just, I think there's something different to somebody who starts a company in their kitchen and grows it to 1,100 and now 5,000 today. He's got a humility about him that I think is hard to find sometimes when you look at like founder-led organizations. But he's kept the company privately held. He is the only shareholder of the company, and because of that, he truly is like the final decision maker,
Yeah,
right? And
Hmm.
and it just keeps a lot of outside noise or outside influence out of the organization. Now, some could say that's good and some could say that's bad, right? So sometimes outside
sure.
influence is helpful. But I do think that because of that, he's kept that sense of realism and I'm a real person and you can come talk to me anytime you want to. So, I share an office with him. And for people who've been here at Glidewell, we have like an open sort of bullpen, and anybody can walk in at any time. There's no guards that are stopping anybody from walking in and talking to any of us. And he's a firm believer in, he's just Jim and he wants people to feel comfortable to come to him.
He doesn't have like a Mr. Burns type office with the big bear in the corner
What
and
is that?
the
I don't
desk.
even know what that
Oh,
is.
come on. From The Simpsons, Mr. Burns with the desk that's humongous.
Nope.
You know.
No, no,
Is it true that he has a porcelain oven still on his desk?
no, he doesn't have that. He used to.
Ah.
He used to.
He used to, but he doesn't
Yeah,
anymore.
not anymore. He did up until recent. We forced him to move his office into another building during COVID. So when we
Oh,
made
yeah.
that move, he lost his porcelain oven, I think.
I bet you he didn't go quietly.
No, he didn't. I mean, he'd been sitting in the same office for years, but also an open office. Like he shared the office So you would know these names with Jim Shuck back in the
Yep.
day, who
Mm-hmm.
ran
Yep.
Yep.
marketing, Daryl Withrow, who ran operations, and then he shared it with Rob Grice, who was a COO. And then after Rob passed away, it was Greg Minzenmeyer, who was a COO. So the four of them sat together. So when we moved into this new space, it's Jim and myself and still Daryl,
Mm-hmm.
who runs operations. And then we have our head of lab operations, Javad, and my chief growth officer, which is Rob Bernaisi. So there's five of us. So for me, it's four men and one woman. So it's a lot of testosterone
Oh,
for
yeah.
me some
Yeah.
days. But they put up with me. They let me be the only girl in the room, and they're all very kind to me.
Yeah. You've been there 18 years.
hmm
So when did Bruxzir come out? Has it been 18 years yet? I have no
hmm
concept of time.
2009, so 3 years after I started.
Wow. So you saw the
hmm
comings of all that, and that's probably had a lot to do with the 1,100 to 5,000 growth, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. So that's when I started taking over, like I developed our regulatory affairs department. So because, in order to launch a medical device on the market, you have to have 510(k) approval and FDA requirements.
You
And
did
that
all
was,
that for Bruxzir?
hmm yeah, I
Oh my
started that
gosh.
department. Yeah.
I know
So
that's not a lot of fun. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, but you're the first one to do
Wow.
that. I mean, right? I mean, monolithic zirconia, wasn't Bruxzir the first one? How do you explain that to FDA, what exactly it
Well, I
is, you
mean,
know?
there were predicate devices out there if you think about it at the time, right? So you had lava, which was
Lava, yeah,
it
yeah.
was even though it wasn't being used for full coverage crowns, it was copings, but there was that predicate device. And then there was also Sage Max back then at the time, which was also
Oh,
um
Sage Max was before
Yeah, I
that?
remember that.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, they
Yeah.
were before us. I think we were just really kind of the first ones to put a
The
ton of
loudest?
marketing, like the ton of marketing. Yeah. And I thought it was really brilliant. I think it was Rudy Ramirez who did this, but he was running the PFM department. And so the way he really got Bruxer on the map was for every PFM that went out the door, he sent a Bruxer crown with it.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
I
hmm
remember hearing that, Stephanie.
hmm
That's amazing. Yep.
Yeah, and so he said, seat whichever one you like the best. If you seat the Bruxer crown, your price is $99, and and just ship the PFM back to us, and so we don't charge you for the metal. And if you seat the PFM, that's fine. Throw away the Bruxer crown. We didn't need it back, obviously, because it wasn't going to go in
Yeah.
somebody else's mouth. But you kind of got like two products for the price of one, and we left it to the customer to choose what they wanted. And that's really what like got it going gangbusters,
Hmm.
was
That's
because,
interesting.
yeah, it was the marketing engine that of Jim Shuck's brilliance behind the marketing of that, and then Rudy's drive with, really getting it into the customer's hands and letting the customer make the decision about what they wanted to put in the patient's mouth, and what looked the best, and what was the best choice for the patient.
Wow.
And then there was the hammer video.
And
Yeah.
then it was the hammer test. I think that was Jim Glidewell's idea. I mean, to this
Really?
day, everyone knows the hammer test. It's still
Oh,
Yep.
of course.
it's still like the greatest marketing tool ever.
Yes. For
I think.
sure.
Well, if there's one thing we got, and I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about Jim, but when he was on our podcast, he kept saying, I'm more of a marketer
hmm
than I am a technician.
Yep.
I mean, it worked.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I would say he's equal marketer and
Yes.
technician. I mean,
So would
Okay.
I. Yep, for
technically,
sure.
the guy's brilliant. I mean, he
Yep.
never stops. He's always pushing the boundaries with our R&D divisions and always having them come up with some new material, some new technique. He's always picking on morphology and how can we make our crowns look better with our AI software. He's a phenomenal technician too. So,
So I want to go back a little bit. So you talked about the HR and the leadership and then the regulatory. So at that point, you're probably in 5, 6 years.
I took on regulatory actually relatively early. It was within the first year. So our
Oh, wow.
COO
Okay.
at the time was trying to get it running. And I've told people this before, but I stupidly was like, oh, I figured out this HR stuff. I can surely figure out.
Are you volunteered?
I volunteered.
Oh,
That had to have been a
Like, I can
painful.
surely figure out FDA because, like, if you think about HR, it's pretty easy to read laws and kind of figure that out. And so, I didn't know all of the leave laws and employment laws of California specifically, right? Because California has extra things on top of it on top of the federal stuff. But you can read it and you can go to lectures and you can assimilate it pretty quickly. And so I thought, well, how difficult could FDA be? And that's like a whole nother level
Yeah.
of like, that's next level of like understanding. So I pretty quickly hired some people in that department who knew what they were doing because I think that's the key in life, right? And in any organization, you have to hire people who are smarter than you. You have to recognize like, where
Oh
are my
yeah.
limits and what am I good at and what am I not good at? And pretty quickly sort of realize like this is not what I'm good
Hmm.
at, but I'll hire somebody who is and I can manage them and
Yep.
because I know where the organization wants to go.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I would say within 1 year, I started taking regulatory off of the COO's plate and helping him with that. And then I created leadership development programs in the organization. We started with a program called LEAD, which was for mid-level managers to go through. Initially, it was a 9-month program that they went through.
Wow.
9 months. Wow.
Yeah, and we call it a little mini MBA program. And for us, it was really revolutionary because we focused so much of our time on technician training. And you both would know this, like time away from the bench is money lost. But I
Yeah.
really
Sure. Yeah.
I thought it was important to take our technicians and some of our managers off the bench and because it makes you a better leader. Like I didn't want them to do it on weekends and evenings. And so we started taking people off the floor, putting them through these programs, giving them some basic skills like communication skills, conflict resolution skills,
Mm.
how to have a conversation with your employee, how to develop your employees, how to read a P&L, how to grow your department through mentorship. And so we really started introducing these concepts. And then I remember Rudy Ramirez and Kevin Shiganaka coming to me and they're like, we're hearing all this stuff from my mid-level managers who are in your courses and they're talking about things that I don't know about and I want
Ah.
I want like we
That's
want
cool.
something like this for ourselves. And I was like, that's amazing. And so then we developed what we call ELP, the Executive Leadership Program for sort of that next level manager. And then we created a high potential program, which is for anyone across the organization in any job. And that's also a 7-month program that they go through. They're phenomenal programs. I just took pictures this morning with the newest graduating class of the lead program, but we've had over 400 people go through these
Wow.
programs since they were developed.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's inspiring to have a positive impact and to know that you touch somebody's life so profoundly by giving them some new skills and then watching their careers blossom into
Yeah.
something that they never imagined it could.
So did you just like pick and choose? I mean, obviously not the executive part, but it basically managers. And then once you finished those managers, did you choose like the next group or did you have people lining up saying, pick me, pick me?
Yeah, we had an application process. So in the beginning, people would apply to be in, and then we would pick the cohort. We would do interviews with everyone. We would interview their leader to find out, like, is this person ready for this course? And then we had to talk to the person themselves about understanding what their commitment was because it was a big commitment. They
Yeah.
had to read 4 books, and some of them probably hadn't read a leadership book ever, or maybe, 10 years ago, and they were going to have to read 4 different leadership books, like Leaders Eat Last with Simon Sinek,
Yeah.
or different books on EQ and those types of things,
Hmm.
change management. And so we wanted to make sure that they were ready for that if they were married or they had kids, that their spouses were supportive of it because it was a lot of
Wow.
homework at night
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was amazing. So it's just like I love watching all these people and honestly after they go through it, their eyes are opened and their careers just really take off. And if you think about it, you both would know this because you've been through this. Technology has changed the lab space so drastically.
Oh, in the
And
last 18 years, a little bit.
yeah, and there was so much fear with technicians around technology because they were afraid of losing their jobs. And, I feel like Glidewell is a poster child for success in this
Hmm.
because we went from 1,100 to 5,000 employees and have implemented significant amounts of technology. And the way that we've done it is to create new opportunities and new business lines for people. So those technicians, they might not be, in the plaster room today, but they're doing something else in a new technology that we've invested in. And because they've gone through this leadership training, they're now ready to take those on. And through this training, it gave them those change skills that they needed in order to help us get through change and help us, get through that J curve of change. So I think it's been really amazing to watch it.
I mean, with that many employees, you can't just hire a whole bunch of new people to run technology. You have to,
Hmm.
help those that are there get to that next level. Did you have people that resisted
I was going to ask
all the
that. That's so
leadership
great.
training?
Yep. So
I mean,
true.
we know technicians.
Yep.
I mean, let's be
I
honest.
know.
We're stuck in our
You took
ways.
it right out of my
Uh,
mouth.
Of course, there's always people. Listen, like
yeah.
it's 18 years later, and I can like look back on it lovingly and like, with like this positive glow. But I can tell you, in the middle of it, it was pure hell. Like
Yeah,
Oh, gee.
I
it was
believe that. I
miserable.
mean, it's tough for people to change. Even if they want to, it's still hard.
Yeah, I mean, like human nature. Like, do you drive to work the same way every day, or do you take a different path to work every day?
Same.
Exactly. Human beings are creatures of habit. We get up at the same time every morning. We make our coffee the same way. We brush our teeth the same way. We drive to work the same way.
yeah.
Humans don't like change. And it's not just in your personal life, it's especially like it's even more critically at work because that's your livelihood, right? Like that's
Yeah.
money in your pocket. That's what pays your bills.
Yep.
And now you're all of a sudden asking these people after 10 years of sitting on a bench, let's read 4 books and
Yeah.
go to class. That's tough.
Yeah.
Did you have a lot of technicians slash managers, or as we say, on the bench managers at the time?
Yeah, so a lot of the mid-level managers were like maybe end of the line QC managers,
Yeah.
right? So they're sitting on the bench with their technicians and, not talking to them, just looking
Not
at good.
managing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then we had a lot of, sort of like floor managers that also not really managing, I would say workflow more than people.
Yeah. It makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Workflow doesn't talk back. I
Exactly. That's the
mean,
nice part. I always tell
yeah.
people like running the business is easy if it wasn't for people.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like adult daycare some days. So I used to say that. I don't say that anymore because it's kind of rude, but it's kind of true.
Well, some days are like an ongoing therapy session, it feels like, and
Yeah.
other days are like, okay, we've got this. Let's focus on business.
Mhm.
So, did you put on these courses or did you bring somebody in to do the courses?
So I hired somebody who had a really strong leadership background, and we purpose made these courses based on what we felt like was necessary in Glidewell at the time. And the reason we did it that way is because I wanted it to be so specific to Glidewell, and because this was new, I didn't want somebody to say, "Oh, this doesn't apply to us."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
And so it was really around like, where is the organization today? How do we make it realistic and applicable to where our people are today? And over the last 18 years, we've continued to modify it. We add new books, we add new content because the organization's constantly evolving.
Hmm.
So with that evolution, people are not starting today where they were starting at 16 years ago,
True.
right? So they're
Yeah.
kind of coming in at a higher level. So we've had to continue. I started with one person. I think now we have an entire a team of 5 people, and that's all they do is ongoing education across the organization. It's not just in leadership, it's every kind of education that you could think of. It's dental technology. It's even they put together programs on customer experience. They identify things around AI and tech and things like that. So people, if they want to get certified in coding, they can get certified in coding. So we have a whole team that just focuses on really employee development.
And when I was there, they were really pro CDTs. And I'm
Mhm.
assuming you guys still have programs that are letting your technicians go through so they can study for their exams, because Jim was always just so wonderful about that.
He is, and we've actually gotten better at it lately. Like we've got more CDTs today than we had in the past. Because I don't know if you face the same thing, Barbara, but in the lab business, people just didn't want to study for the CDT exam, and it
Yeah.
was kind of difficult too. It was
Mhm.
like once a year, and you had to sit for it. And now,
Yeah.
post-COVID, they've made it so much easier
Mhm.
for people to study for it and then to take the exam that I have a lot more people who are actually studying for it and taking it. And we actually have a CDT like prep course now
Oh,
that
I
we
love that.
developed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
How many people are in that course? I mean, you have 5,000 employees.
Yeah, so it's ongoing at any time of the year. So now we just had somebody get their CDT. We had two people graduate with their CDTs 2 weeks ago. So
Nice.
Awesome.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, so it's really at their will and at their leisure that they want to do it. So I would say, like on average, we probably have 10 more people a year getting their
Beautiful.
CDT.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. That makes me
Yeah,
so happy. I love that.
I need to do
Yeah.
mine. I know.
Oh,
I need to do it. So
I have a feeling
That's a
you will.
great point.
Yep.
yeah.
So you don't make anything.
Mm,
You haven't made anything, right?
mm-mm.
So how are you going to get your CDT?
Digital.
Digital, yeah.
I think it's
Serious.
great.
Yeah.
Because it's really just a test. You have to study for the test, and then you have to actually make something. But
Yep.
I could make something to pass it, but I'll have to I just gotta figure out. I'm definitely not gonna make a denture. You
Yeah.
wouldn't want that.
No.
Yeah, yeah, no. Yeah.
But I'm
No, I'm
still.
kind of in the same boat. I don't sit on a bench. I haven't in years.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to get my CDT too, but I was like, I don't really make anything anymore. So
Yeah.
I don't know how I would go about doing that. And that's why I was curious.
Yeah, but no, you can do it. You don't technically have to be sitting on the bench. So one of the ladies who just got her CDT actually is one of our, we have a dental operatory. We have 4 dentists on staff, and she's one of the RDA assistants in there, and she got her CDT. She's not
Oh, good
making
for
friends.
her.
That's
Hmm.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
these
I,
4 dentists you have on staff, are they treating the employees or do you use them for education and chairside or both?
So it's a little bit of all of the above. So
Yeah.
they work heavily with our materials R&D department. So as our materials scientists are working on new materials, they'll give feedback and then they'll seat the product or they'll do some longevity testing on it and those kinds of things. And then they'll give feedback. And if it's pre 510K, they'll just do a try-in and take a look at it in the mouth and obviously not seed it. If it's post 510K, they'll do longevity studies on it. But while it's in development phase, they give a ton of feedback to our scientists on like, these are the material properties that we need to have. If you're going to develop a glass product, this is what it needs to have. If you
Oh, sure. Yeah.
want to have a new zirconia product, this is what it needs to have. So we just launched a new zirconia product and like the life of Bruxzir, and it's called Bruxzir Radiant, and it's our most translucent zirconia to date. So it's 65%
60. Wow.
translucency. 65% translucency and 780 megapascals of strength, and they worked hand in hand with our R&D department on really trying to dial that product in.
that's amazing.
And then, so obviously we have several patients here, so we use our employees here as patients, and then those become marketing cases. So all of the marketing that you see from us with cases, that's all typically our employees and that have
Oh, no kidding.
And then we use that for our education. So we put on 10 symposia a year here at Glidewell, so where we host 200 dentists to come in at a time, and then we have about 50 other, I guess 60 other educational events that happen throughout the year where we have like 50 people here at a time. And so we do everything from like implant courses, aesthetic courses, sleep, dentures, removables. And so our dentists actually teach a lot of those courses as well. So they're pretty busy.
Wow. Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah.
So I want to go back a little bit. I want
Okay.
to go from the transition to when you became CEO. How did that all What was the timeline there from when you started?
So I became CEO in 2022, I'm trying to remember, 2021, I think it was 21, no,
You
22.
said 3 years, so yeah.
Yeah. So it was really kind of a fluky thing, kind of like my conversation with Rob Grice. So we had a COO at the time. His name was Greg Minzenmeyer, and he had
Mm-hmm.
resigned. And so I was just talking to Jim one day, and I didn't think that he would replace the COO. Greg had been our second. The first one had passed away tragically, and then Greg. And I thought, Jim's probably not going to replace the COO. He'll probably just go back to running the company. And we were sitting talking one day, and he's like, I was watching Squawk Box this morning, and the guy from Squawk Box, and he's talking about, and he's co-CEO, and he thought, co-CEO. And that was interesting. And I thought, I could be a co-CEO. He's like, so we're going to make you CEO. And I was like,
Oh my
what?
God. Wow.
I know.
It was
I'm
just
like,
a conversation.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
by the way.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I was like, what? And I said, no, Jim, like, no, we can be co-CEO. And he's like, no, we'll just make you CEO.
What?
And
Wow.
yeah. And I said, why don't you think about that for a little bit? And then nothing was ever said again. And so I went home that night, and like maybe as women do, like I thought, did I make that up in my head? Like, did that happen? Did that not happen? Like nothing
I
was
don't
ever
think that's
said.
just women. I think I'd be the same way.
Yeah.
I was like, did he say that?
Yeah. And it seemed very, just kind of like nonchalant about it. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, and then I think it was a week later, my head of HR called me, and she's like, I have the letter that's going to go out to the entire
Oh my
company. And
God.
so
And
we
there
need.
was no conversation between that mention and the letter?
No, and then I went and talked to Jim, and I said,
I was like,
Jim,
hey, whoa,
yeah.
whoa, whoa,
And
wait
I
a
was like,
minute, guy.
I know, I was like, let's talk about this. Like, are you okay? And he's like, no, you've been with me for 16 years or whatever, and
Yeah.
you've been running a lot of stuff for a long time. And he's still, like, the reality is, Jim comes into work every day, still 5 days a week. He's still
Does he
heavily
really?
involved in the
Wow.
business. Yeah, still heavily involved. He really does let me make the daily decisions. But like I tell people, I always have my WWJGD bracelet on. What would Jim Glidewell do?
Yeah.
So, I really try to understand and respect the fact that he created this beautiful thing that we call Glidewell Labs. And
Yeah.
I don't ever want somebody to say like 2022, the beginning of the end of Glidewell, when Jim Glidewell appointed Stephenie Goddard as the CEO.
Oh,
Like,
hell
and so,
no.
I try to really respect his vision and his values. And I do try to remember that with everything that I do. And there are a lot of times when like I said, we share an office, so I talk to him every day. But there are times when I'm like, hey, Jim, I want to run this past you before I do it. And he's like, sometimes he'll say, well, I don't agree, but you do what you need to do. I understand why you want to do it, but it's your choice. And sometimes, most of the time, he says, you're running it, you figure it out.
Wow.
You know what you're doing. So he's really just a kind soul, and he's been a phenomenal mentor to me. Like, I really couldn't ask for anyone better. I'm
I mean, the
really, really
CEO of
blessed and lucky.
Glidewell, like that is just so daunting. I mean, it's to me anyways, not to you obviously, but like what was that transition like? And do you have any downtime? Are you always working? What's balance look like for you? Like help us understand and our audience understand what that is like.
Did you just move in?
Yeah. Well, I did move closer. So for 16 years, I was commuting from Carlsbad. So it was like an hour and a half commute.
Oh
So
God.
Which in California was what, 5 miles away?
yeah, no, it was actually 55 miles. So now
Wow.
now
Yeah.
I'm 4 miles away, and I get frustrated when it takes me more than 12 minutes to get to work because I did an extra light. I think you're very kind, Barbara, to say that. It is daunting. I try to hide it,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of pressure to run any company. I know a lot of dentists, obviously, and I think it's actually much more stressful to be a CEO of a 10-person company than a CEO of a 5,000-person company in some respects, because
Hmm.
when you're the CEO of 10, you are everything. You're the head of HR, you're the head of the company, you're the
Oh,
CFO,
yeah.
you're the head of marketing, you're the, head bottle washer, you're
Yep.
the therapist. You are literally everything. And for me, it's the CEO of Glidewell. Like, I have a head of HR, I have an employment attorney, I have an IP attorney, I have a head of engineering, I have a head of software development. Like, I have people who like run parts of the business who are so much more brilliant than me and who can really drive growth in those areas and are amazing support networks for me and really help hold me up. Like,
Yeah. Makes
they
sense.
they are my, there's a lot of them, but they are the four legs to my stool, right? They're the ones that hold me up and help me run the business. But no, it's a lot. Like, there's many weeks that, like a normal person, I work my typical day, but I'm never really off, right?
Yeah.
I'm doing
Yep.
Yeah.
emails at night, I do them early in the morning, I do emails on the weekends. We have a lot of events on weekends here, so there's many a Friday night that I'm working until 11 o'clock at night, or Saturdays when I'm back in the office again, because we've got 200 dentists here. So
Hmm.
it's not a job like for the faint of heart or for somebody who just wants to kind of like, do their 40 hours and go home.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
for
that's
sure.
that's just not a possibility. But work-life balance is, I'm going to be 55 at the end of this month, and it's still something that I'm trying to work on.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll ever have the answer.
Wow.
But the nice thing is all these people, as you mentioned, the legs to your stool, you've
Hmm.
spent, what, 16 years developing their leadership and their
Hmm.
ability to succeed. So,
Hmm.
I mean, they're there because of you. You've set yourself up for success.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really nice way to put it. Now I'm feeling really good about myself. Thank you. Elvis, can we be best friends? And whenever I'm having a down
Absolutely.
moment, you can just lift me up.
Absolutely. That's what I'm here for.
That's a really nice way to look at it. Thank you.
You must have run into a lot of who is Stephenie when you became CEO? Was that a
I, s-
thing?
I still get it. Like,
Yeah.
I think I got it this week.
Wow.
I mean,
Really?
your name's
Yeah.
not on the building, and then,
No.
everybody knows Jim,
Yeah.
so who the heck is Stephenie must be a common occurrence.
It is, but it's okay. I kind of like it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People who know me really well, I tell them like I'm an introvert, and they're like, "You're not an introvert. Like, you're just so ridiculous." And I truly am an introvert. It's just with people I know, I can be very extroverted, but
Yeah.
I was raised as an only child, so I crawl in my hole at night and I sort of recharge my batteries. I'm perfectly okay with people not knowing who I am, and I'm
Yeah.
okay with people knowing who I am. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have an ego that says like I am the CEO and you have to know who I am and you have to treat me a certain way. I'm like,
Sure. Yeah.
and it's funny, like sometimes I'll be talking to people and they'll go, "So what do you do at Glidewell?" And I just say,
Oh, Lord.
I'm the CEO." And they're like, "Oh my God, oh my God, I've been talking to the CEO for an hour and I didn't even know. I just thought you were a technician." Like,
Well,
okay.
with everything that you give back, like how do you keep yourself recharged? Are you in like CEO groups or, things that where you can keep yourself, learning and growing? I mean, I'm sure that's something you need.
Yeah, I mean, for me, personal, mental stimulation and interpersonal growth has always been super critical for me, and just
Hmm.
the way I've always been, that's something that keeps me going and alive. So yeah, right now I'm doing a 12-week certification course on my own time to just learn some more things about business, and
Hmm.
then I belonged to another women's development group called Chief for a couple of years, where it was like female leaders who got together once a month and sort of, helped one another
Nice.
grow.
Yeah.
I have my own program that I developed, Guiding Leaders, which is a female dentist leadership development program. So we have 25 ladies out here every month for 6 months, and I really love getting to know them and seeing them grow and
Yeah.
supporting them in their own journeys. And then, I have amazing, amazing friends who are just phenomenal support networks to me. And then I have my two kids, and they're both adults now. And so it's a different relationship as your children age, and they can help you in
Yeah.
a different
Yeah.
way. And when they're in the workforce and they start to understand the stresses that you're going through, they become like more confidants sometimes for you as
Yeah.
well.
That makes
So,
sense.
yeah. So I try to maintain a happy balance, but trust me, I have my moments of stress, and I'm an I'm a normal human being just like the rest of everyone, but I am trying to like just not sweat the small stuff, right? And just learn to let it go.
But I think it's a super real answer. And I think that just goes to show the kind of person you are. It's like we all have a little bit of vulnerability and we all know we need to grow and keep learning. And that's exactly what you're doing. So I commend you on that. It's tough. I mean, I can't imagine the
Yeah.
pressure that you're under. So good answer.
Well, luckily, Jim's still at the forefront. So like you said, most people want to meet Jim Glidewell, which is good.
And how old is he now? If I don't mind asking.
He's 79.
Holy shit.
He is a very spry. He is
That's
like the
awesome.
yeah. My mom is 81, and like those two people are like the spryest,
Yeah.
boomers that I know in my life. Like
Wow.
my mom and I just went to South Africa for 10 days, and I was so worried.
At
I'm like,
81?
at 81, I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be a nightmare. And she like had more energy than anybody else on the trip. And that's like Jim, like I said, Jim comes in every day. He's here at 8 a.m. Like he's got energy. He's like emailing me at 3 a.m., at 9 p.m. And like he never stops. Like I'm just like, Jim, can I just have like
Yeah.
I'll just take
Cool it,
like
dude.
1 cc of what you've got running through your veins. Like
What are you drinking over there?
Yeah, but at that age, I mean, I don't imagine that he wants to slow down. I have a
Mhm,
coworker that says, what else would I do? Like, I love going to
mhm.
work. And it sounds like he's still like all in.
Yeah, I think that, honestly, watching sort of people in my life as they age, and I will say the ones who work the longest tend to fare the best, right? Because
Hmm.
their mind is
Mm-hmm.
constantly working. Physically, he's really fit. He golfs several days a week as well, so he keeps himself in good health. But I think that mental stimulation really it does
It's got to
wonders
be
for
there.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's really what keeps him going. I think if he wasn't coming to work, that would be death to him because
Yeah.
he really does thrive on being around people and getting ideas and talking to people and just being in this environment. And he also just has a sense of not wanting his employees who've been with him. I mean, we have one employee who's been with us, 47 years.
Yeah.
He's been with Jim.
Wow.
47 of the will will be 55 in January.
Is he in the model room?
He's actually in R&D now, but
Wow.
Really?
he
Wow.
was a technician in removables for years, and now he works in our R&D department, and he's actually going to retire, I believe, this year.
You better throw him one hell of a
Oh, I
party.
bet
I
they
know,
will.
right?
They are gonna. We've heard
But
about you guys' parties now.
Oh.
You guys are
yes.
amazing to your employees. I've seen so many pictures, and you guys just treat your employees so well, especially around Christmas and just all of the different ethnicities that you've got. And you guys
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
each and everybody has a party for, who they are. I love that.
Yeah, and honestly, that's all driven by Jim. I mean, the Christmas party is his thing. He loves that party. It's my favorite day of the year. Like I love going to that party. It's so much fun. And he's really the one who drove, we started off with Chinese New Year,
Yep.
and then it's blossomed into now we do Cinco de Mayo, and we celebrate Nowruz, and we celebrate Diwali, and
Yep.
so it's really
Awesome.
become
How do you guys get anything done?
one would wonder, right?
Every week there's a holiday for somebody.
It's just a little celebration, and I think it's so nice because he's so super respectful of cultures, and he doesn't want
Yeah.
people like he's really tried to create an organization and a culture of being accepting of all cultures, and he just doesn't want people to come here and feel like when you come to America or when you come to work for Glidewell, you have to ignore your culture or
Yeah.
deny your culture. He wants us to celebrate it. And so I think it's really lovely. And the
No, I think
employees
it's
Me
awesome.
really,
too.
they
Yeah.
really, really appreciate it.
Yep.
So, it's the little things sometimes, right?
Yes, very
Yeah.
much so.
So as we wrap up, let's talk about what Glidewell's planning on for the next few years. I mean, obviously R&D is a constant thing. Can you let us in on some of the good stuff that might be coming
Some of the
from
top
Glidewell?
secret. Tell us some
Yeah.
top
The good
secret.
stuff.
Heard here first kind of things.
So I said it, sorry, I told you a little bit earlier about Bruxzir Radiant, which is our new
Yeah.
zirconia product. It's actually not officially launched yet. I think it will. We've kind of done like a soft launch with a few customers, but you'll start to see its name and marketing materials out there.
Is that a lab can buy a puck of it?
No, it'll be a dentist. It's
Okay.
so it'll be crown and bridge work that comes through our lab, and as
Sure.
we perfect it, it'll be something that we start working with labs. It is very, with any new product, it's technique sensitive. So
Mhm.
as we start to dial that in, then yeah, we'll work with other labs and give them access to that product. We will have a new crown. I forget the name. Oh shoot, what's the name of it going to be? Fusion.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, and it's also a zirconia product, but this is Jim's brainchild. It's a zirconia coping with a zirconia veneer on top, wrapped with the mamelons and the contacts wrapped around the coping. So it looks
Cool.
very
Interesting.
beautiful. So it'll be the first zirconia on zirconia. I know we have a lot of other products, CZ, but it's like porcelain
That
on top
sounds
of
technique
This sounds
sensitive.
cool.
very technique sensitive, but
Yeah.
I think it'll be an amazing product when it comes out. We have a new glass product that'll come out on our chairside system.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be another now product, but it'll be a fully sintered glass product. So similar to fully sintered zirconia, it'll be fully sintered lithium disilicate product.
Oh.
So you don't need an
Nice.
oven afterwards. Yep.
Wow.
We're still continuing to invest heavily in technology. So, we have our own internal software development team. So we're continuing to build out all of our design technology. You guys would appreciate this. We went from back in the day designing, I think, 30 crowns a day on the software at the time, when CAD first came out, to now our
Sure.
technicians can design 180 to 200 crowns a day. That's
Wow.
how good our software has become.
And it's your own software, right? I remember
Yeah.
hearing.
Yeah, it's our
Yeah.
own
How come you
software.
won't let us other labs have it?
We do. We
We
do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Oh.
They
I
share
didn't know
everything
another.
with labs, and that's a huge compliment, you guys. Like, you give it all away. You want everybody to be successful. I so love that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean that's Jim's philosophy. I mean, he's always like, we have people here all the time. He's like, I'll show you everything. Like, you can have it all. I'll share it all. Like, he wants everyone to be
Mhm.
as successful as he is, and rightfully so. I was talking to somebody the other day. I mean, there's enough business for everybody. Everybody can be fine, and there's still growth opportunities. And he doesn't want to hold anything back from anyone because he really is in this for the whole industry. It's not just for him. He really does want the industry to be successful,
Yeah.
and he recognizes how hard it is to be a dental technician, and the skill that it takes to be a great dental technician and to grow a business in this arena. And so he's got massive respect for people who do it. So he really does want to share everything.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And you're, of course, are going to continue that tradition, right?
Oh yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would never ever ever stop that. Yeah. No, that's something that we'll continue to do until the end of time. So, that's just built into the DNA of Glidewell. There's some things that would never, doesn't matter who's running Glidewell 50 years into the future. It's just built into the DNA.
Well said, and so true.
Do you go to like Chicago Lab Day? Have you experienced all these lab
I
things? Cal
do.
Lab and Vision and
I
all that?
do.
Yeah.
I do. So,
Good.
I go to Chicago Midwinter every year. So I don't go to everything, but I go
No, you
to
can't.
as much of it as I can, and sort of the bigger ones I try to go to. And I stay heavily involved with other lab owners as well, and just try to share information. I mean, it's a weird industry, right? Like, if you want to get a pulse of dental, you can read ADA and sort of what patient flow looks like. You can look at the companies, that are publicly traded. But if you want information about what's happening in the lab space, you have to have friends.
Oh, yeah.
Because
For
So
sure.
true.
Yep.
That is a great point.
it's just not readily available information. So, I highly value the friendships that I have, and I think it's so important for Glidewell to share our information and for us to get information from others, because it's the best way to understand like what's going on in our industry.
Oh, wow. Well said. So true.
Yeah, very good point.
Love it.
Stephenie, thank you so much.
Yeah. That was awesome.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for having me. It was such an honor. It's really a pleasure. Barb, I know we've met, but Elvis, I've never met you. So if you're in Chicago
No.
this year, please or next year, please let me
Definitely.
know. I'd love
Definitely.
to meet up for a coffee or something.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm usually around somewhere.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, but thank you so much.
No, thank you both. I appreciate it.
It's good to know the person behind the new title.
Behind the person.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations to all
Yeah.
your success.
Yep.
Thank you.
Well
Future
deserved, it
success.
sounds like it.
Yep.
Thank
Oh,
you.
of course.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and like you said, we'll see you next time. We'll see you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
A huge thanks to Stephenie for coming on our podcast and sharing with us a little bit about who you are, about who you are, and what made you such a great pick to run such an amazing company. While you have been at it for 3 years, it's still new to us. So we are going to congratulate you again on your well-deserved role. Congratulations. We really enjoyed hearing about how you took the time to turn bench managers into better managers and how you have given countless employees opportunities for career development and growth, which I really love that because I'm on the bench, and to become a leader and learn how to manage people, you need to learn that skill. So thank you for continuing to allow Glidewell to share with and encourage other labs in our wonderful industry to succeed, which is so wonderful. You guys have always been amazing. I do have one warning for you, though. Since you asked Elvis to be your best friend, which he's pretty awesome at that, he can be very needy at times. Thank you again, Stephenie. You're amazing.
All right, everybody. That's all we got for you, and we'll talk to you next week.
Have a great week, guys.
Bye. God, that was a show. All right. It's all me, not you. The views and opinions expressed on the Voices from the Bench podcast are those of the guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the host or Voices from the Bench, LLC.